Yep, recording.
Okay. Can you do me a favor? Stop it now and then restart it once we officially start, because otherwise
All right, welcome to the August Oily Underground. Before I get started, I'm gonna do a quick shout out to my dear mama, whose name is Bethy on Zoom, but in real life it's actually Bridget. So you can just say hi to my mom. We are here to talk about shifting seasons. Ready, Set, Shift is the title of this Zoom, and the whole idea and theme of it was, generally speaking, going into late summer, early fall, it's a big change for a lot of people in lots of different ways, right? So people are going back to school, generally just the temperament of everything going on seems to amp up, although for some people it winds down depending on your seasonal job, right? But how do we be proactive in realizing the shifts are about to happen, how they might be affecting us, and how can we set ourselves and our families up for success in dealing with those shiftings the best way that we can? So that's what we mean by shift. And one of the key things that you're going to find in any shifting in life is your habits. Are you cultivating good habits, or are you encouraging bad habits? I'm in the middle of reading actually a really great book on habits called Atomic Habits. I would absolutely recommend it. But a lot of times we get overwhelmed because we just focus on our goal, right? Like, I don't want us to get sick, or I don't want to go through another bout of seasonal depression. And then there's not a whole lot of system attached to that goal. Like, how do you get to that goal? How do you achieve it, right? So habits are going to allow you to achieve that goal. So we're going to talk very briefly about some really good, simple habits that you can implement to support yourselves and your family as you shift through these upcoming seasons, okay? And one thing I want to keep in mind and encourage you is less is more in these circumstances, right? Because if you try to change or do or implement too much, it's just not going to happen. You're going to get overwhelmed and you're going to fall off the bandwagon, as they say. And another thing that might be helpful is I want you to pick one goal, like one sentence that describes the identity of the season that you want to encapsulate. So for instance, I am healthy this season, or my family is healthy this season, or we are emotionally stable this season. Whatever that is, I want you to think about that one sentence or that one goal that's going to encapsulate that season for you, and we'll kind of build off of that. Give you an example. This past winter, so December, January, I ended up picking up 2 jobs. So I was working my one part-time job in the ICU, and then I did a short-term travel contract on the east side of the state where I stayed with my mother and father because they were generous enough to allow me to do that. But I was working 3 12-hour shifts there, and then a 2-hour drive back, and working two 12-hour shifts in Grand Rapids. So that was a short time. It was a nutty season. The pros outweighed the cons for me, which is why I said I would do it. But I also knew that I was going to be stressing and pushing my body to the max. So I proactively set myself up for success. I was like, I'm going to be exhausted. My immune system's going to get run down. So I'm going to build all of those things up so that I do not get sick. And I didn't get sick. So things that I did was, you stock your wellness cabinet, right? You're proactive in that. I had my Ningxia Red. I was taking all of the supplements, which we'll go into later. I was utilizing my wellness roller throughout the day. I was prioritizing on my one day off, like going for walks, getting exercise in, taking care of my dog, and then getting sleep. I pretty much knew that I was giving up most of my life for the next 8 weeks or so that I could do this well. So that's kind of the premise of this Zoom, is to set all of us up for success as we shift in seasons. And again, those seasons are going to look really different for a lot of people. 1 minute, Brooke-Ann says.
sorry, I had to unmute myself. So we wanted to start out by saying kind of what Sarah was just mentioning, is the idea of creating these habits. So in the summer, it's a little bit easier to get lax with habits because, life is a little bit more laid back. Immunity isn't such a hot topic. People aren't getting as sick as often. And so what we really want to do encourage you guys in is starting to create habits for wellness now that you get solid in before these big shifts happen, so that when you're in the middle of the shift, it doesn't feel as overwhelming or as stressful to maintain something that's just already a natural part of your rhythm and routine. So obviously, this is the Oily Underground. A lot of what we're going to be talking about is oils based and Young Living based, but this doesn't end there. This also ends, keeps going on into other things like meditating or yoga or getting outside and going for walks. Those kinds of things also come into play here, but we also don't have enough time to dive into all of that and the oily side. So don't think that you should just stop with the things that we suggest. Keep going and digging and figuring out what works for you and what's a good habit to implement in your life. But so we wanted to start off with saying, like, how can you maintain successful oily habits so that it's just easy to keep that rhythm and routine? First, we always suggest have your oils out and visible. Very, very prime example is I got my oils kit when I first started, and I set it on a shelf in a back room for like 6 months, and I didn't look at it and didn't use it because I just kept forgetting about it. So get them out in a place that you see them all the time. Get them out on your kitchen counter. That's a great place to start because everybody's in the kitchen for food at least once a day. So that's a great place. And then you can kind of migrate them to around your house, wherever you need them to be. But make sure that they're in sight and in mind, because that will help you be more faithful to using them and utilizing them. Another great tip is to label and organize them. You will be more likely to quick reach and grab something if you know right where it's at. So if you decide you're going to put them in a cupboard, and that's a good place for you to have them, and you'll be faithful to using them, but then you decide that it's too much work to sift through them all, figure out an organization system so that you can just reach in, and this is when I feel sick, these are the things I go for. When I'm feeling the moody blues, these are the things I go for, so that it's just easy for you to compartmentalize and reach into and grab. Another one that probably seems like an eye roll, but is a great reminder, is to make rollers. You guys, you can make rollers for everything. Like the raindrop oils, make a raindrop technique roller. Like, it doesn't have to be super complex. You don't have to have a 16-part system. That's great if you have the time for it. But if you're needing something quick and easy, make a roller, stick it in your back pocket if that's what you need to do. And then 2 more things. 1, pair your oils with activities you do naturally. So I'm hoping that most of you wake up and brush your teeth. And if you're doing that, put your oils right next to where your toothbrush and your toothpaste are, because that's going to remind you, oh, right, I want to put on my roller to support my hormones. And it's just right there with stuff that you're already doing. So it's not, you're not recreating the wheel and trying to get too fancy with it. One of my favorite things is to set alarms. So I'm terrible at remembering to take supplements, especially if there's supplements that you're supposed to take at night, like Life 9, the probiotic from Young Living. So I just set a daily reminder in my phone to set an alarm and remind me to go and take it until I don't need that alarm anymore. At a certain point, I'm like, okay, I remembered before my alarm went off. I can nix the alarms. But that's a great place to start, because that helps you to kind of form the habit. It kind of acts as like that little barking dog that reminds you. So those are some really easy ways to start forming habits. And this, like I said, doesn't apply to just oils. You can kind of use these things and creatively figure out how it will be a good tool to set you up for other habits you want to incorporate as well. Loveland.
Okie doke. So next part, something that we don't generally think of or even acknowledge or discuss much is the emotional part that goes into preparing for the shift of the seasons. And we're doing right now a Big Feelings Little Challenge group separately, which is all about honoring your emotions and how oils can help you release some of those emotions and work through a lot of things. And how doing that for 30 days straight, you actually see a shift in your mindset and some of your feelings. So when you are shifting seasons, things are going to come up. It could be past traumas, it could be past memories, past joys. But for me, I always still think about going back to school in the fall, even though I haven't gone back to school in years, but that's always what I'm triggered by. I always think of going with my mom and my sisters and getting school supplies every single fall, no matter what. So things like that are always going to be triggered, and we need to start acknowledging the emotional aspect so that it doesn't take us by surprise and it doesn't cause things to happen to us physically that we're not even aware of where the cause is coming from. So a quick reminder for that is, why are smells and memories and oils so helpful for your emotions? It's because your olfactory system, so your sense of smell, is connected to your limbic system, so your hypothalamus and your pituitary and all of that right here on in the front of your brain. And the limbic system is associated with memories and then emotions, particularly long-term memories. So that's why if you smell something, you're instantly brought back to a specific memory. My example of that is Irish Spring soap. I automatically think of my grandparents and a mint green bathtub in Nebraska every single time I smell that bar soap. The same is true, and that is why oils are so useful in managing, recognizing, and releasing your emotions. Because when you inhale certain oils that have different properties or maybe trigger different memories, you're able to do it in a way that you wouldn't otherwise, right? You're able to acknowledge that, and then your body can release it. Another thing to think about as we shift forward is, especially us here in Michigan, most of us deal with seasonal depression. We don't like it, but we know it happens every single year. So my question is, do you do anything about it, right? Or do you just know it's coming and you hate it every year and you somehow soldier through it, and then it's the same thing every year? So for instance, with seasonal depression, make a happy roller. Lots of oils are associated with joy, brightening moods, calming emotions, all of that, and use that throughout the seasons where the sun is low. Make sure you're upping your vitamin D intake, like a lot. Everybody, pretty much everybody, unless you're coming from Florida, are deficient in vitamin D, and that is key in your, not only your emotions, but in depression even. You could use the Great Day Protocol or the Feelings Kit. Those are all protocols specifically for feelings, but some people are just drawn to different oils. If you're drawn to an oil, even if you don't know why, start using it daily and see what it does. That oil for me right now is Idaho Blue Spruce. I love Idaho Blue Spruce. It is an instant like pick me up and like breath of fresh air. And so I use it as often as I can because it really works for me. And the other thing I want to briefly mention is your gut health or nutrition. If you're thinking, Sarah, we're talking about emotions, you're crazy. Wrong. Actually, I am a little crazy, but not because of this topic that I'm bringing up. Because it turns out over 90% of the serotonin that your body produces is produced in your gut. So what is serotonin? Serotonin is the happy hormone. It is the like adrenaline or happy hormone that's released in certain situations. Okay. So when people struggle with, if they have a mood disorder, for instance, normally their serotonin levels are drastically low. Okay. Everybody's are going to fluctuate because of different reasons. But one thing that you can do to significantly help your mood, particularly if you know you're going into a challenging season, is take care of your gut. So things like that would be, watch your nutrition. Everybody's body is different. I would encourage you to either see either a functional medicine doctor or even a nutrition response practitioner to help figure out maybe specific foods that you should really be avoiding. As a rule, avoid added sugars and processed foods as much as possible. Quite a few people are sensitive to dairy and gluten, but not everybody. But the added sugars and processed foods, I would say pretty much across the board, you should be trying your best to avoid. Other things for that, get on a probiotic. I take Life9, our Life9 probiotic every single night, and it has helped my digestive system so much. Okay. So that is another little tidbit. Support your gut so that you're happier.
Not only does your gut play a big role in like the production of that serotonin hormone, but it also has a huge role in like your hormones outside of like the neurological ones. Like serotonin is one that mostly plays an effect in your brain. but it also plays a huge role in your hormones. And I don't feel like I need to say too much about this, but we all know that if hormones are off, mood is also off, and we're more susceptible to anxiety, depression, some of these things. And so staying on top of your gut health before big changes and during big changes and shifts is very helpful for protecting that hormone balance that you have, or getting it back up to par so that you're ready to rock. So I hope this doesn't feel clunky. I want it to be like a pretty smooth transition, because this is very much a part of what this ready, set, shift is. We talked a little bit about like the back to school portion of it. And even if maybe you don't have children in school yet, this stuff still kind of applies and can be used in your life. But it's also a big thing that's just going on in our, world right now. The people that we know, the people that we love, we know somebody who's going back to school. So not only does this help us help ourselves, but it also helps us help other people, and whoever else is in our lives that we want to impact and empower. So we're going to touch base a little bit on this back to school shift, and how we can make habits that keep us healthy and keep our kids healthy. How do we do that throughout the entire school year? The first thing that we'll touch on is supporting immune health. That is like one of the biggest things that you can do for yourself and your kiddos, because the more you are in school, the more you are exposed to everything under the sun. That's kind of goes without saying, but prepping yourself with things more than just make sure you wash your hands after going to the bathroom is really what you should be doing. And those are things you should be starting to do right now. Like, don't do it when everybody else at school already is getting the flu. Do this now, so that when everybody else starts getting the flu, your kids are like beefed up, ready to go. When they come home, your body's beefed up, ready to go, and you are fully loaded with, immune support. So some of our favorite ones from Young Living to help support the whole immune system as a whole, to just make sure that the functions that it's already doing just have all of the nutrients and nutrition, electrolytes and vitamins, all of that stuff that plays a role into a fully thriving and functioning body, that your body's beefed up on those things, so that your immune system doesn't have to go seeking for that or not work well because it can't find that, So Super C, there's a chewable and there's a swallowable. I don't think that's the word, but the chewable one is awesome. That one does have milk in it, so if you're dairy sensitive, do be careful. Super D is another awesome one. That one's totally vegan. It's made from lichen. Super D is one that I think you only have to take it like once a day, but you can, I would recommend Googling and seeing like how much you might need to take, because certain body types, certain ages, they can take more or less of a vitamin D, not necessarily just the Young Living one, but I would definitely say empower yourself in looking and seeing like, how much vitamin D do I actually need? Because you might be surprised at what the number says versus what you might see on a bottle from like a store or something like that. For your kids, we talked for adults how to support your gut health, because gut health plays a big role in hormones, moods, and immunity. 80% of your immune system is actually regulated by your gut function. So if that's not functioning well, your immune system is not functioning well. So we talked about Life9 probiotic for adults. There's a children's probiotic that we really highly recommend, and that's called Mighty Pro. It's a Young Living one, because this is the Oily Underground. That's a fantastic one. There is a daily multivitamin for adults called Master Formula. There's one for kids called Mighty Vites. Getting yourself on a daily vitamin or like a multivitamin is going to be beneficial, because again, your body's not going to be lacking the nutrients and resources it needs to function. It will have those because you're supporting it with that. Nincturette is another one that's great. Another really simple one is to have a thieves roller on hand at all times. So immune health, that's a great place to start. One that maybe gets overlooked to some extent, is sleep hygiene for big people and little people, especially in shifts, big seasons. Sometimes it's really easy to think that first week back at school, let's get a good sleep routine in, but formulating that habit and really sticking to it is going to set you up for success the whole year, instead of trying to wing it that first week of school, and you do great for the first 4 days, but then it just teeters off, and then the rest of the year is shot to heck. So some ideas about establishing a consistent bedtime routine, because it's so important. First, start at the same time every night. Kids are creatures of habit, and they thrive on habit. Maybe they're not creatures of habit. That might not be a true statement, but children do well with structure. That's really what I'm trying to say. Children do well with structure, and even if they'll buck you on it because kids are kids and they think they can stay up till 3 a.m. Setting that in place and setting that boundary of nope, this is when bedtime starts, and starting the routine that way is a great idea. And it helps set their circadian rhythm up, so that their hormones are fluctuating at the right time. Their cortisol levels, which are supposed to spike in the morning, peak in the middle of the day, drop in the evening. So, you're helping set up that to be successful for them as well. So you're really setting your kids up, for not only to know 7:30 is when we start bedtime, but also to let their body know, hey, this is when the rest and replenish cycle starts. And so it sets their body up to be able to maintain and thrive as well. Other ideas for maintaining like good sleep hygiene for your kids and for yourself: stop using electronics and screens at least an hour before bed. I know that's a tough one. I am extremely guilty of it. It's just easy to sit and look at a screen or watch a movie before bed, but it really does change. If you want to get into it, look up like blue light and how it affects your brain and stimulates your brain, because that can really have a big impact in kids, especially. Read a short book or something instead, or even just like a paragraph, go for a walk. Another good idea is to limit caffeine. I know that sounds crazy for kids, but it's easy to let your kid have a Coke at 3 p.m. and then wonder why they're not asleep at 8 p.m. It's because caffeine has like a lasting effect time of like 7 to 9 hours. So set your kid up for success. And, I would encourage you to just limit it in general for kids that don't really need it. They are full of energy. Good ideas too is like encourage your kids to take a hot bath or a hot shower. Same for you. It helps kind of wind down, lets your body relax, stimulate some of the more like rest and replenish stuff. Dimming lights, even like an hour before bedtime, dimming lights is very helpful because it kind of helps your body start to cue itself like, we're relaxing now. And then always use your oils and your supplements. You get your diffuser out, again, have it in a place that's easy to use, have water sitting literally right next to it. So you don't have to try and run to the kitchen or the bathroom. It's just right there to pour in. Have your oils ready to go, so that it's easy to use. And then there's a couple of supplements from Young Living as well. There's Unwind, which is a packet for kids to take at night that has, I can't remember, it's got magnesium, and if somebody could drop it in the comments, there's another thing that helps the children sleep. It's like BHTP5 or something weird like that, but it helps kids settle down and rest. There's another one, 5-HTP. Thank you. And then Sleep Essence there's like a blend of, it's like a capsule you can take for a big person. So use those and also continue with this whole idea and shift of like the back to school thing, supporting you and your kids' emotions as they go back to school. And Jen Moyers is on the call, and she's going to talk a little bit more about this once I'm done. But supporting yourself and your kids' emotions is huge, because if your body registers an emotion to such an extreme level, what ends up happening is it puts your body into fight or flight. And so that can actually slow down things like immunity and all of that. And even though, you're doing well in, eating well and maintaining some of these other habits, if your emotions aren't well supported, those can kind of put a damper on all of the other hard work that you're putting in. So we want to talk to this a little bit, because emotions are a huge part of shifting, like Sarah has already said. So I liked the way that I saw this broken down was like, let's ask some of the big questions of like, for you and your kids, some of the big questions that come up with this big, with transitioning and shifting into a new thing, and then reflect back on, okay, now that I know the main questions, how can I empower myself, my kid, or even my friend and their kids? How can I be empowered to step into that so that we're proactive in, taking care of our emotions? So some of the questions I wrote down are posed towards children, but you can apply them to yourself. Take a little creative liberty. So how will my child react to this new situation or this new classroom or whatever? How will my child feel being around these new things? Start giving these emotions some names: overwhelmed, trepidatious, nervous, excited, unsure. If the more you can name it, the more you can pinpoint exactly how to help and support that. And then another question is, how will my child handle these new experiences? So if your kid's overwhelmed, do they get angry? If your kid feels, I don't know, overstimulated, do they get reclusive and they don't want to talk to you. Start thinking those things through. Same thing with yourself. I know that if I'm overwhelmed, I want to hide from everybody. And so how do I handle the emotions, and also what emotions might be elicited from this shift that maybe I don't see coming? And even if you could just ask yourself these things in advance, sometimes you can say, oh, I know how I'll respond because you've had experience, right? You've been through something maybe similar, and you can be like, oh, I know that public speaking makes me get the nervous poops. Okay, so now take care of, X, Y, and Z, so that when you go public speak. So using that kind of mental reference of, okay, this is what life looks like, or I've seen my kids do this, helps you kind of name things so that you're prepared for them before they even get here. So how can you prepare in advance to answer those questions? And what kind of tool or solution can you or your kid use? I'm going to address this towards kids, but these are also things you can do for adults. So some great references or like suggestions of oils and stuff to use. Kid Power is a great one. It's basically the kid version of Valor. Valor is nothing more than courage in a bottle. If you need a dose of courage, Valor is great for that. Kid Power is great for that. So the big overwhelming feelings, the first days back at school, parents, that trepidation of sending your kid to school, Valor and Kid Power are great. You can make calm rollers. This is great for like the bedtime routine. This is great for the pre-test jitters, whatever it may be. I love to keep it simple and just do lavender, vetiver, and frankincense. They're really, quick and easy. A couple drops of each, put it in a roller. You can send that to school with your kid. You might maybe check. I'm not sure. Some schools might have like stipulations on what you can send. So that ball's in your court. But idea is to send it with your kids if you can. Another great one is to have a hormone roller that supports your kids. Maybe not necessarily your like 3s and 5s and 6s, but as your kids are getting older and entering like high school, middle school, and high school, it's a great idea to have a hormone supporting roller. So something like Endoflex and even like Progestins Plus for your girls, or Idaho Blue Spruce for your boys, something that helps support that natural cycle and rhythm in a tough season, because puberty is just tough. And then add that onto all of the emotions of going back to school and settling into, the long winter's months. Having a hormone supporting roller is a great idea. And I know there's some people on this call who have kids in that kind of age bracket. So if you have a roller blend that you want to share, that would be awesome. If you want to just drop it into the chat, that would be great, but no worries if not. Other things that maybe you could potentially have on hand for yourself and your kids is like a focus roller. So rosemary, peppermint, and orange, those all have really great effects on supporting the focus and clarity of mind and thinking. And so that might be something that's helpful for your kids while they're home and studying, and while you are helping them with their math problems. But it also helps you maybe recenter at the end of the night, and life gives you 2 seconds before you fall asleep. Maybe even a focus roller for you to kind of sit back and reflect on, what did the day bring? What feelings am I feeling that need to be addressed? What came up that I wasn't aware of? How can I deal with this? So that, clarity of mind can open up some thought to help you, I don't know, just handle it better. And then this one, I added this as a last minute thing. I'm not going to get into the politics of it or anything of that nature, because I know it's such a topic. It's a topic. But there's a lot of kids who are really, really, really afraid of germs now, more than they really ever have been, because they've heard a lot about it in the news. And so empowering your kids with things that help them combat the bugs, because there's a lot of bugs everywhere, and that's fair. And, if you're a kid who has been hearing a lot of scary news things, or even the adults in your life talking about it, maybe you're a little more afraid to go back to school than normal. So just send them with the Thieves hand and sanitizing. That is 99.9% effective. It's FDA approved. It's great for their system. It's better than washing their hands with the soap that's full of fragrances and harsh chemicals. It's going to help support their body way more than the other hand sanitizers that potentially can kind of like strip some of the body's ability to do what it's supposed to do. So send them with that. That would be a great option. And also the Thieves wipes. They have wipes that they can tell them, you know what, if this is something that's making you nervous, that's okay. Here's what we can do. You can go and you can wipe your desk down every single day, or you can, wipe down your locker, whatever it is, but just give them a little bit of a sense of power in a climate that is maybe a little scarier than normal for them. So Those are some ideas for all of that. I want to tap into Jen because she's got some great input and insight on especially the back to school and the emotions piece. So go for it, girlfriend.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me? Everybody hear me? Okay, so today was actually our first day of school for my girls. And so I guess real quickly, pretty much everything that you guys said about wellness routine, we do. Like we have, and we've been doing, like you said, like we didn't just start this last week because we knew we were going back to school. Like we've been for months and months, like basically years, honestly. We have some non-negotiables that we do every day. Like we take Ningxia Red every single day, always have. They take their vitamins, they take vitamin C, we do probiotics, we do all the things just as a routine. Started it years ago, like I said, when they were really little, so that they do have that when they are when today started, when they went back to school. You know, I felt confident knowing that they have that habit established. It's not something I have to try to implement when going back to school is new for them too, you know, and so it's just one less thing to worry about since it's already established in our routine. So we also, another thing that we do, and I make sure to do every day, is diffuse all over the house. Like every diffuser we have, we do it during the morning, noon, night. I diffuse in their bedroom at night to help with the sleep, like you said. They have their own sleep rollers that we use every night. They rub it in their hands, rub it all over the pillows, you know, because honestly, I kind of have to brag a little bit. I got them to sleep before this Zoom, and it's only 8 o'clock here. So I'm pretty proud of myself because we used our oils. They took unwind packets. Like we did all the things because today was the first day of school. They were super tired, not used to being at school. We did virtual last year. So we were not in person since March 2020. So it's been like a year and a half. My littlest one started kindergarten today. And so she has never been to school in person. So today was actually like a really huge day in our house. So we did the Kid Power rollers. We got that made up a few days ago. We've been using them in the mornings. We used them before we went to the meet the teacher night, you know, just to establish that habit. We did it this morning before we dropped them off. So they took them in their backpacks. We made it I made it a point to say, like, this is your roller. If at all during the day you feel nervous, you feel shy. My girls tend to be a little bit shy. They're 9 and 5. And so, I mean, they're not shy at home, but like around new kids, you know, and they haven't been around a whole classroom full of kids ever in years. So anyway, this is your roller. If you feel nervous, go to your backpack, roll it on, go to the bathroom, take a minute, take a deep breath. Like these are kind of habits that we've established so they know what to do. They also got Thieves hand sanitizer in their lunch boxes today. So yeah, we do all of these things as far as the physical wellness. The emotional stuff, it was for my kids this year, they were just more excited than anything. I was the problem this year. My emotions were absolutely all over the place this year. And I don't know what it was, but it's so crazy. I think, Brooke Ann, you said this about when you don't address, or maybe it was Sarah, I don't remember. When you don't address your emotions, it can manifest physically. It's no coincidence. I've actually had bronchitis for like 3 weeks straight, and I never get sick ever. And it just dawned on me one day, like, this is because I've been so stressed about them going back to school. It's been so much for me. Not that I'm not excited, because I'm very excited, of course, for them, but it's been the transition of having them be home with me every single day. I've been a stay-at-home mom for 9.5 years. My oldest is 9.5. And so like it just all of a sudden, like, I have no kids at home. What am I going to do with myself? Like, you know, of course I'm happy and excited for them. Like I said, they're going to be making new friends and the growth and the learning, but like, it's also, and this if you know Sarah Jones, if any of you know Sarah Jones, I'm on Sarah Jones's team. We talk about this all the time. She and I had a great conversation about this the other day, that people don't talk enough about this weird transition of when you send your kids to school. Like, we're expected to be just okay with it. Like, go to school. Moms have the freedom to do what they want to do, which I am excited about too. Like, this is what's so weird about it. It's all of these emotions, the excitement, the wanting the freedom, needing a break from parenting. We all know that's a thing. That's a real thing. And the guilt for that, and the sadness because your kids are growing up. Like, it is the biggest confusion of emotions all at once. And so anyway, I realized this is why I've been physically sick for a few weeks, because I've been keeping these emotions and not really dealing with them, not knowing how to deal with them. So what I've come to realize is that I need to let myself feel everything. I need to be excited that they're going to be at school and I'm going to get a break, because I am, because I haven't gotten one. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and anybody else that knows, it's like, that is no joke. I need to be excited for them to be off on their own learning without me there. I need to be okay with grieving the fact that, like, I don't have little babies at home anymore. They don't need me 24 hours a day anymore, which is awesome and sad at the same time. So anyway, I've been leaning on my oils. This morning was super emotional for me, especially my little one. That's that was really hard for me today. So I came home, I sat in it, I cried a lot of tears today. I used a lot of Valor today. I used a lot of, actually, acceptance oil was one that I just like covered myself in, and I just cried. I just let it out. And honestly, it helped so much, because I wasn't trying to, I'm an Enneagram 7. So I don't, if you know anything about the Enneagram, I don't like to just sit and feel sad or sit and feel hard stuff. I usually distract myself. That's what I do. So anyway, I didn't this morning, and I really, really needed it. And so you got to let yourself feel it, whatever the emotion is. If you feel guilty that you're happy that your kids are gone, you can feel that, you let yourself feel that. If you feel sad because your kids are gone, feel it and process it, and then release it, because if you don't, it will manifest physically, and that's not good for you. That's not good for the rest of the family. It's just not a good situation. Plus, I need to be an example for my kids too. If they feel nervous about being at school, or if they feel shy, or if they, if something happens and they feel a certain way about it at school, I need them to recognize it and speak on it and feel it, and then we can release it, And so anyway, it's really not talked about that much. I feel like this transition of sending your kids to school and then what? And so anyway, that's been our experience. And my kids had a great day. Of course, they were super tired, but loved every single second of it. And it's a relief, but I'm just now a big proponent of, like, feel what you need to feel, because it's just going to help everybody. It's a big part of the shifting of the seasons, whatever age your kids are. So.
Yeah, so true. And I very much agree. I think that juxtaposition of being fully happy and fully sad applies to this especially, but to so many areas in life. And it's not a well talked about thing where it's okay to be 100% both. So I'm super thankful that you brought that up, and I hope it helps some people to have that freedom to be like, it's okay to feel 100% this way, and at the exact same moment 100% that way. It doesn't make me crazy, and it doesn't invalidate. Just because I'm happy, it doesn't invalidate that I'm sad, and vice versa. Just because I'm sad doesn't invalidate my happiness or whatever those emotions are. So I love that you brought that up, because it's super true. So that is what we have written out, and this is the recorded portion. We'll go ahead and stop recording. Um,